just sell 3 million copies, I got $30 million. Now who has the biggest record deal?
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Right? So Mariah kind of got screwed.
Record labels are afraid of saying, okay, we're going to hand over the distribution completely to you guys.
When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts.
Prince was a wonderful and fearless artist who wasn't afraid to talk about the unfair practices in the music industry. But his honesty became a problem for the higher-ups, and they decided to eliminate him. Now the industry has found a new target, Kanye West.
At a time like this, if I was on medication right now, then one pill could have been swapped out, and it would be Michael Jackson and Prince all over again.
Kanye has been very vocal about the greed that runs deep in the music industry. Executives and record producers see artists as cattle that would just churn out music and money for them. They overwork artists and consider them their property. Not only that, Kanye has been talking about how unfair it is to the artists for a long time. And Prince's last words finally proved him right.
When we sign, we just working for the white labels. We ain't signing nobody.
Production companies have the upper hand in the music industry. They own the rights of the music their artists create. They decide where and when the music gets played. Kanye tweeted this truth publicly that angered all the music executives. When you sign a music deal, you sign away your rights. Without the masters, you can't do anything with your own music. Someone else controls where it's played and when it's played. Artists have nothing except fame, touring, and merchandise. Kanye thinks it's also the fault of the artists for becoming complacent with the system that wants to rip them off. By not speaking up against their injustice, the artists are only filling the pockets of people who don't care about them at all. He said, "We've gotten comfortable with not having what we deserve," he continued. "They allow us to have a little money from touring, get some gold chains, some alcohol, some girls, and fake numbers that feed our egos, but we don't own our masters." Kanye has pointed out even in his interviews how absurd it is that the music companies get to control the artists completely. He said, "Currently, artists take advance payments to make records, and yet when they repay those advances, the record company still owns the records. Imagine a bank lending you money to buy a house, and then when you've repaid that mortgage, them telling you they still own it." Kanye knew no one in the industry dared to stand against the mafia, so it was only in his hands to try and bring the change he wanted to see. This stance got him in the bad books of all the music industry higher-ups, including some of the most powerful names in the industry, such as Universal Studios. But it's a battle that he's willing to fight for the sake of his children and all the artists to come, saying, "Everyone at Universal and Vivendi, please understand that I will do everything in my legal power and use my voice until all artist contracts are changed, starting with getting my masters for my children. I will not stop. I promise you I'm petty and very personal." Believe it or not, everything that Kanye's been saying has been said before by none other than the legend Prince himself. Prince's words prove that Kanye isn't some crazy person making up conspiracy theories, but an artist suffering at the hands of these music executives. Prince wasn't afraid to talk about how the labels were stealing money from him. At one point in his career, he stopped relying on the companies to record his albums and would do it himself from his own studio. But this freedom was unacceptable to the companies. They wanted a share in any and every profit Prince made.
And they would always hold his contract up and say, "Well, you signed it." And I say, "Well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair." Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today.
These companies made Prince sign unfair terms and conditions when he first got into the industry. He was forced to give most of his profits to music companies, even though he would do all the work himself.
I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise.
Even then, Prince tried to look for a compromise. He thought if the conditions of these contracts could be revised, he could consider working for the companies. But the music executives were completely blinded by greed. They wouldn't even part with a penny. Prince wanted the system to change, not just for his own sake, but for everyone. The current system was abusing every single artist out there, and the only way out was to fight it.
As long as you're signed to a contract, you're going to take a minority share of the winnings. A select few of us will do well, the majority will not.
Kanye is screaming the truth from the top of his lungs that artists are just slaves and that the music executives use them to make their own money. And once the artists aren't useful to them anymore, they will discard them without a second thought. And as rumors go, they aren't afraid to get their hands bloody. These music companies don't care about the art or the artist. They're just here for the money.
The truth is this: a bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives.
Well, Prince knew the only way to change the system was to speak up against it, and that's what he did throughout his career.
Eventually, with courageous people going out there and actually saying something and standing up for it, I think we'll get some balance.
Even though other people thought he was weird, that he would just keep talking about it, he persisted. And eventually other people started to see that he was right. Look at what Jay-Z has to say about Prince.
He was fighting for his masters the whole time. He was fighting for his freedom the whole time.
Where Prince wanted to dismantle the system completely, Kanye only wants to reform it. It seems like even this is too much to ask in this selfish, greedy system. But speaking the truth comes at a huge price. Prince was threatening the whole system, and if he kept going, the industry hierarchy would fall apart. So the music executives tried to silence him, and sadly, they succeeded. Prince died suddenly after a fentanyl overdose. Prince wasn't a drug addict, and these drugs in his system came from counterfeit pills that weren't even prescribed to him. The prosecutor told the media that it was a very unusual case. In all likelihood, Prince had no idea he was taking a counterfeit pill that could kill him. Others around Prince also likely did not know that the pills were counterfeit containing fentanyl. Prince's fight for justice and freedom make the circumstances around his death even more suspicious. Could it be that he was silenced to keep the pockets of the music executives safe? Prince posted some very cryptic messages before he passed away. His last post before passing had the caption, "Just when you thought you were safe." Right before he passed, it seemed like he knew his time was up. During his last appearance, he told fans to wait a few days before you waste your prayers on me. Prince may be gone, but the fight for justice is far from over. Every artist from the music industry has a new hope now in the form of Kanye. That man is being painted as a lunatic and bizarre man, when in reality, he's only trying to get a fair share out of his music. And he knows the price of truth. Kanye's been saying repeatedly that black artists are being murdered and that Prince's death was no accident. Prince's last words prove Kanye right. But Kanye has learned his lesson from what the music executives have done to the likes of Prince and Michael Jackson. He's being extra careful. When the music companies tried to get him on lithium, he refused the medications.
And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, he was deeply troubled. We miss him. We love his music, though.
This was just a lazy scheme by the music execs to get Kanye under control and portray him as an unreasonable man. After all, if Kanye was taking medications for mental illness, they could easily discard everything he says is not true.
Look, they tried to medicate me. I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me. And they when I asked them, how much lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount.
Kanye knows his life and career are in jeopardy. He knows the mafia he is up against has eliminated iconic musicians like Michael Jackson and Prince and won't hesitate to do the same to him.
Well, they would have Britney Spears too. I mean, look at
They would have Michael Jackson.
or worse, yeah. So look at what they did. Look at what they did to Britney. When she went in, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was in a bad way. But 10 years of that medication wrecked her brain. You can see it now. Yeah. You can see there's not much of her left.
People are also finally seeing the truth in what Kanye has to say. This means that Prince's activism and fight for the truth hasn't gone completely to waste. One fan commented about the injustices these artists have faced by saying, no, they would rather steal Kanye's damn name. The guy has to call himself Ye because they own Kanye. That's not right. Prince had to name himself the artist just to get away. Michael Jackson was about to own half of Sony Records when his contract was up with them. Wake up. Others that don't completely agree with Kanye have also started to see the truth in his words. If the music executives were so transparent and righteous, they wouldn't have been this secretive about their contracts. One fan tweeted, "Late night rabbit hole, thanks to Taylor Swift. Master Records. Kanye's invoking Prince via reference to modern day slave ships. And while I'm not totally sold on that move, I gotta agree with him that it would be nice to see those recording contracts." That's it for today, folks. Until next time, goodbye.